First of all, I want to thank everybody. My first question for the group is this. Who was at Eggs and Issues back in June? Okay, quite a few of you. So this is really a follow-up to what we started there. For those that weren't there, some of this is going to be new. I'm going to do a very, very brief recap. But before we get started, if you're an elected official, would you please stand to be recognized? We want to thank you for your service. So, two. Okay. With that, I want to say again, thank you to the Economic Development Committee members. They put a lot of time in since the last meeting. They continue to persevere to help make things happen. And so what you're going to see today is representation of their work. So thank you to them. Thank you to the Chamber Board and Town Council for their continuing support of what we're doing. Some of this has gone officially before the Town Council, and we greatly appreciate their support, and Ruth and her team at the board level for the Chamber. And last of all, a special thank you to Dana and her staff for all the hard work behind the scenes. The committee has a lot of ideas, but people have to put it into play, and Dana and the team have done a lot of work, in particular Angela Hardison, who's not here today, but a lot of what you see has been her handiwork. So I thank you to all of them. Okay, at the last Eggs and Issues, we talked about a focus on three things in terms of economic development. Branding and marketing being the first part, which will be the focus of this morning, and where we're at on that and what we're rolling out. And you'll see some tangibles here today that you can start using. So branding and marketing was one. The second thing we talked about was workforce development. Scarlett is here this morning, Scarlett Tyner from Novo. She chairs the Workforce Development Committee, and they've been doing a lot of work. We're, as we mentioned at the last meeting, trying to work in partnership with them, in particular with some tangible assets here in the Clayton area relative to workforce development beyond this beautiful facility. Dave's going to speak to that in his presentation. And last of all, transportation was the other key thing we talked about. That's coming. There's going to be more of a focus on that next year, but we haven't lost sight of the fact that transportation issues are key in terms of future growth. We know what's happening with road widenings and road construction around the area. We're looking at alternative means of transportation and how the town and the community can plug into what's happening in the region with respect to that as well. So that's sort of where we were and where we're going. The branding, there's been a lot of work on that. I want to bring Dave up. He's going to talk about it. From the standpoint of how we're handling this, one of the things I want to mention is that we need a point of contact for economic development. And through the partnership between the town and the chamber, the obvious choice with the town designating a formal position for it was to make Dave the point of contact. So he's really the tip of the spear. Is that a good term? You like that? No, he doesn't like that. He's the point of contact for where we're going with that in order to speak to different folks. We're all going to be involved in that, and we'll talk more about that before. But at this point, I'm not going to drone on, so Dave, you're up.
So it was about 5 months ago we started developing marketing information for the town and the chamber. The Economic Development Committee, I think we talked about it last. We talked about putting together a brochure that we could give to businesses, prospective businesses, and also breaking the town up into regions, areas that could be marketed separately. We actually have that brochure. It's a really great brochure. I think you're going to really like it. It talks a lot about the town. It also has our districts map in it. And that map breaks up the 8 areas. Talks everything about our distances from all the other municipalities, or Raleigh in particular, our demographic profile, including drive times, radiuses from Clayton Center, and what the population is, not only population in the jurisdiction, but in a 3-mile radius, 5-mile radius, 7-mile radius, drive times 5, 10, 15 miles. and daytime population. When we talk to retailers, they don't really care what the population of the town is. They really want to know the population within certain miles and drive times. You know, we're very strategically located, and we don't tell our story very well. It's hard to tell our story. We are part of Johnston County, but we're also kind of part of Raleigh and Wake County. When you look at the map where Raleigh is and the jurisdictions around Raleigh, we certainly fit in the ring, and that'll be more evident clearly when 540, when we talked a little bit about transportation, 540 comes around and connects you know, the western part of Johnston County to Wake. You know, we continue to develop brochures like this. I actually got the opportunity to use the brochure. I went to the ICSC conference in Atlanta. That's the International Coalition of Shopping Centers, Council of Shopping Centers. It was my first time ever going to something like that. It's a very interesting and busy place. A lot of deal making goes on there with businesses. They actually have an area called Retail Row, and it sounds exactly like what you think it would be. It's all the different retailers, you know, from Dick's to Chipotle to Chick-fil-A. And we're working on Chick-fil-A, still working on Chick-fil-A. Chris knows I'm working on Chick-fil-A. Where's Chris? And you literally walk down the row and play meet and greet over and over and over again with the different retailers and talk to them and try to sell your jurisdiction. So having a brochure like this was one of those things that made it really convenient and easy to walk up and start a conversation. And you know, you have to get over the hump where people say, well, we have a store in Garner, or we have a store in Smithfield. Why do we need a store in Clayton? So telling Clayton's story is the plan, and that's what we're doing. Now when we get to the individual districts, which is the insert map, we've named all the districts. The names came kind of naturally to each area, and that's basically because of what's in those areas, whether it's the Advanced Manufacturing District with Grifols, Novo, Caterpillar, or it's the Covered Bridge District, which is C, which has Covered Bridge literally going from one side of it all the way to the other side of it, or the East Bridge District, which has the bridge that goes over the Neuse, and of course the Health District, which has the hospital. We've taken these districts, and now that we've broken it up, this main brochure has the demographics and information for the whole town. Our intent at this point is to take each of these districts and develop a demographic profile for those too, including drive times, so that when someone is interested in expanding a business or locating a business in Clayton, we can give them specific information about the different areas of Clayton, so that they can choose their location maybe more efficiently.
The big question is how to use these. And one of the things we've done is we had people asking questions during the development process. Can I take this and cut a piece of it and use it in my brochure? And the answer is no. So we've copyrighted this because we want to keep the entire message the same going forward. So we want people to have access to it. It's going to be posted on both the Chamber website and on the Town of Clayton websites. We'll be getting information out via email in terms of links to that later this week. So you will be able to download PDF versions of these documents for use. You can print them and use them in a hard copy form. You can upload them to a website for a property listing if it's appropriate for that particular property. So that's where we're going. We want people to use the documents, but we don't want you changing those documents. And Stacy's going to talk about one of the additional media parts to the documents that we're planning for next year, and how that's going to sync up with it. In order to keep it synced up, we need to have consistency. So, Stacy, you want to take a minute and talk about the media
yes.
piece?
So, obviously, it's great to have something tangible, and it's very exciting to have all this information put together in one place. But what you always want to pair in this day and age with that kind of information is video. that gets people excited. We know through social media, through our websites as businesses, if you don't have an image or a video alongside with your information, those thumbs are scrolling past. And we're seeing that more people come to the Town of Clayton's website through mobile. They come to us through hitting a link that we've shared on social media, and you guys see that as well. And so what we need to do is showcase this town. As you guys probably remember, it was a decision made prior to me getting here, but we, as the Town of Clayton, had decided to pair up with a company that did marketing videos with Terry Bradshaw, a very recognizable football name, right? Well, you'd watch a video if you saw him talking, and then you might be surprised to hear him selling the Town of Clayton. Now, I understand he never came here, but he said wonderful things about it. The mayor was part of it. Johnston Health was interviewed in it, and it sold the town. It was a 5-minute long economic development video, and I had businesses call and ask for, can we get that on CD to send out to people? Can we get a link to it? Can we share it out? Absolutely. Those two guys may come to your house if you're using this and chopping it up, but with the videos, we want you to share those out, freely and often. And following the Terry Bradshaw video, we did a Think Clayton with Jody. With our mayor, and we tried to make it fast-paced. It showed clips of Grifols and Novo and Caterpillar and Bayer and all our industry. It showed our parks and recreation, our greenways, our parks. It showed the Neuse River and all these amenities. It highlighted our schools. It was, again, another video to sell Clayton, much shorter. It was 1 minute, 10 seconds. But it kind of got that Think Clayton in your head because we used that flexibility that we love. It was Think Clayton, Think Industry, Think Clayton, Think Recreation, Think Clayton, Think Home, Think Clayton, Think Family, Think Downtown, Think Dining, all those things that we want people to equate with a quality of life that they're seeking for not only their families, but their employers, as we have, companies looking to locate here. And so now we want to do the next iteration. We want to kind of jazz up that video and do another sale through video of Clayton. We have so many beautiful images that we've collected. Let's throw them together and again brag on this community. And so that's what we'll be working on. We'll be wanting to talk to different entities in each of the districts, because what we'll first start off with is a broader sort of overview of Clayton. Again, these are quick videos because people's attention span, we know, is very short. But start out with a broad overview, getting you excited. I see upbeat music. I see that fast pacing. I had a presentation. Unfortunately, we can't get the audio to work, but many communities, take different attacks on it. Some are fast-paced, but those that I felt were most effective folded in the bragging facts here that are attracted. There's obviously drone footage, showing maybe open properties in the districts that are available, what amenities are there. You can get fiber and water and electric, and it talks about all the different amenities that it sells, but then it also does the softer side, because as the mayor reiterates almost at every turn, is when a company is looking to come to Clayton, they're not asking about, well, what's your sewer capacity and they're asking, how are the schools? What's it like to live there? Is there anything to do? Do you have good restaurants? It's schools, it's quality of life. And so while these, district videos will brag on what's offered in each of them, it always has to come back to why we love living here as people, as families, on our time off, raising children, having our parents come, our in-laws come to move 2 doors down from us, which might be happening to me. It's exciting because we want to brag on us offering something for all of those ages. And I think I'm so excited to do it because we've got all the goods. We do. We have the people to brag on, the companies to brag on that are here that I know will freely and already do it to brag on us and why they're here. We just have to harness that. And again, put some upbeat music to it and some amazing video, drone footage, all of that. You know, it's an easy sell and a wonderful accompaniment to something like this that all of us should, you know, we're looking to you to be our sort of, our ambassadors and feeding that out as far as you can reach, because together, you know, we can reach more than just the chamber or the town trying to do it. So really excited to do that, and many of you will be contacted about it. We want to feature all of you and help tell Clayton's story through video as well. So,
Thank you, Stacy.
you bet.
So I hope you can see the vision we're pursuing here in terms of having tools that all of us can leverage in terms of selling Clayton and having good tools. This process, you know, you look at the brochure and you think, well, what takes 5 months to get that brochure together? You know, some quick graphics and you're ready to go. It's more than that. It's all about the data, because there's a couple of things we're trying to consider as we do this. One, that we have good data that we're putting into these tools and verifying it. Two, that it represents there's an ability to update it, because as we all know, things are constantly changing, and we're going to need to keep these documents current. So however we gather the data, however we report it out, we need a way of replicating that over time so we can keep the information current. So that's a big part of it as well. And then the last piece is data is not always available within the geographic boundaries that we want. So it's looking at how is it available, how do we manage it, and use it effectively the way we need to use it. So we want you to understand that part of it, and that's what takes the time in making some of this happen. Just syncing up the maps was a fun process in and of itself. So what's coming next? Again, just to recap, the district level inserts for the brochure you're going to see and get today, the videos that correspond at both the overview level and the district level that go along with them. So there's two forms of media that to reach people. The survey, many of you responded. We hope you responded to the survey that was done. That's one of the things we talked about at the last meeting, that we wanted input on a number of things. So looking at the first quarter of the year, we're going to be taking the time now to really get into the results of that survey. What does it mean, and what direction does that point us in terms of responding to things that you collectively have asked us about? So it's not being ignored, it's just the time to get to that next step. The last thing is art. If you remember at the last presentation, for those that were there, we talked about art as a key theme in terms of creating an identity for Clayton. And we still think that's a large part of what we can leverage here. It is a plus being in this community. You see the art throughout downtown. There's a lot of nice things out there. We talked about seeing that broaden to gateway pieces of art at gateways coming into the town, the potential for business owners to put art on their properties. That is not as simple as you might think. As we started working into it, lots of questions come up. We still plan on doing it, but we want to have a process that's fair, that's consistent, that we treat everybody the same, and that we end up with quality art. I don't know how many of you are like me, but I know good art when I see it, but you certainly don't want me creating it. And with that, we want to make sure that there's some sort of standard that's being kept with respect to public art. We've had a meeting with the town's Art Advisory Board, and they're going to step up, and they're really going to be the body that, from an art perspective, looks at is this right or is it not as part of an approval process. So that is coming as well. With that, we want to open it up to questions and answers. I think if we can start distributing the brochures, we can do that at the same time.
For David, is there anything you can share with us regarding any additional downtown development that's going on? I don't know if that's relevant to this or not, but any new shops or restaurants or anything coming to town that you can give us the sneak?
Probably the biggest thing that's coming towards the downtown right now is the old spinning mill property. on Front Street is redeveloping. They're going to use historic tax credits, change the mill into loft apartments. There'll be 25 loft apartments in the mill, and then the mill will be wrapped with 255, well, the whole project's 255. So the remainder of the 255 units will surround the mill. So that's additional residential in the downtown core. The Shelton's Furniture Building has been papered up for a while. That building is going to convert potentially into a restaurant. We don't have a user for that restaurant yet, but the property owner is planning on adding a kitchen to that building so it can have a restaurant. 218 and 220 East Main, which is right next to Clayton Mart, that's been vacant for a while. Building's in disrepair. The town owns half of it. We're working with the Lees, who own the other half of it right now, to trade them property for our half of the building. So that can be redeveloped. It has to be, everyone who's looked at the building says it can't be done half and half. It needs to be done as one project. And it's hard to do one project with two separate owners. It needs to be one owner. Outside of downtown, we continue to work with Johnston Community College, JCC, and Johnston County Public Schools for a campus, well, one Johnston County JCC campus in Clayton. They're very interested. We've identified a site. We're trying to work through that site, and we're also trying to identify a secondary site in case that site doesn't work out. If we get the site we want, it would be 2 campuses, potentially also a park, some mixed use, some commercial, and a multimodal transportation hub, which would start as hopefully a park and ride, convert to bus rapid transit, convert to passenger or light rail as we move, not light rail, but passenger rail as we move into the future. And yes, we're still trying to get a Chick-fil-A. I hear it every day. And we will eventually get a Chick-fil-A, I promise. Hopefully in my tenure.
How important are incentives still for people that you're trying to recruit?
That's the first question. One of the first questions they ask is, do you have any incentives? It's hard to have incentives for commercial users, and they're the ones that usually want it. When we get to bigger industrial users, we can work with the county and look for opportunities for incentives. But for some things, it's not easy. Of course, we have incentives in downtown, and we will be looking at what we can do for businesses outside of the downtown core. But it's important. It's an important component for sure.
Charles?
Parking. So that always is an issue. It sounds like with downtown, and the more we try to bring, i.e. restaurants and spinning mills and everything else, how do we address that without going vertical somehow? You know, I don't.
We're in the process of, we have a streetscape master plan project going on simultaneously with all this other stuff. That streetscape master plan is to do a number of things, address the on-street parking on Main Street, potentially widen sidewalks a little bit if possible, secondary parking lots and areas behind the buildings instead of everybody out in front. Everybody says it's a really bad parking problem. It's really not as bad as everybody envisions it is or thinks it is. And I think it'll be interesting to see how important parking is as we move into the future with things like Uber and Lyft and autonomous vehicles that can drop you off. And things we're looking at now is building in spots along Main Street where Uber drivers and Lyft drivers can actually pull over, stop, drop people off in front of businesses and then drive away. I think we're going to see more and more of that and less need for vertical parking. Vertical parking is incredibly expensive. I think I want to say if you can do a surface street parking for $5,000, you can do a vertical parking spot for $30,000. So the economies of scale are way off. So if you can avoid vertical parking, you do, not only from the cost to build it, but the cost to maintain it.
I hope you see how exciting times are for our county. And the collaboration, to Chris's point, is key to that. Working together, having the conversations, finding out what the needs are in our community and where the growth potential lies. I can't tell you how exciting, I feel like this is my, end of the year speech. I can't tell you how exciting this year has been to chair this board. And to say that these committees, Jim's committees, Scarlett's committees, Brad, legislative committees, I haven't ever in my history of being with the chamber seen committees so focused and serious about their work. We have fun, but these committees are taking their responsibilities extremely seriously to better our community, to better our town. And I think you see the work that Jim's committee has done represents that. And to his point, it's not just throwing some stuff together. This took months of work, and people on that committee showed up, did the work, did the input, did the surveys, and I can't thank you and your committee enough. Who have we got in the room that is members of the Economic Development Committee? If you'd stand, I know they're not all here, but thank you so much for all your work. We have working committees, not just people showing up. We have a good time, but people work and are committed to their responsibilities. And Dana and her team, Annie's out front, Maria's not here today, and Angela, none of this could have been pulled together if not for Dana and her team, you know, keeping all this on track and bringing it together. So thank you for Thank you all for coming. We appreciate your input always, and I hope you have a wonderful week. Thank you.